Hey everyone, it's EJ from Eyedesyn.com, and today I'm going to go over a little question that I had a lot of people ask me when I'm covering all of the 2D illustrative style inside of Cinema 4D, and that is how people can get a shadow cast onto an object that has 100% luminance. And I go over this a little bit in my, well, actually, I go over a lot of it in my cell shader tutorial, which you can see right up on the screen now. It's on my webpage, just check it out. You go eyedesyn.com/tutorials, and if you go down a little bit, you'll see this tutorial with the little anchor. And I go over basically all of the options in the cell shader, all the basic options, but I'll go a little bit in depth with just the shadow part of it and how I apply shadows to Luminant objects. So let's go and jump into Cinema 4D.
All right, so this is going to be really quick here. So I have the scene set up. I'm going to turn on interactive render region here real quick so you can see what I got. Just some line art style of a Polaroid here, Polaroid camera. And what we're going to do is I have a plane here that is just my ground plane here. And if I go to my side view, you can see that my plane is right below my object here. So this is going to have a completely luminant material on top of it. So a lot of people ask, how can you cast shadows onto something that is completely luminant? So if we go ahead and add I like to use an infinite light because it's just a very straight, it acts like a sunlight basically. And I'm just going to position this up here. And basically you're just kind of pointing this infinite light like the sun where it's going to be pointing at. And I'm just going to give it a slight angle here. And then I'm going to turn on hard shadows because we're dealing with hard edges, and that makes sense to have a hard edge shadow as well. And you'll see that, of course, there's no shadows being cast because everything is as a luminant material, 100% luminant. So nothing's going to get cast on that because it's almost like casting a light on or a shadow on a light. It's not going to happen. So what we want to do is when you have an illuminant object and we want to cast a shadow of this Polaroid camera onto this plane here, we need to go and adjust and apply a cell shader onto it. So you can find under Sketch and Tune Cell. And then what that's going to do is it's going to apply a crazy blue texture on here by default. And what we can do is just get rid of these blue textures and bring back that kind of tan texture. Or what you can do is adjust these. So what this is just your diffuse. And what you want to do is adjust this to have two shades, because you want a shade of just your normal color that'll be pure white, and then whatever shade you want your shadow to be. And right now we have camera set on, which means that a camera is going to act as the illumination source, and we want to turn that off. What we want to do is use this light. So we can use the light to cast shadows by just checking on this lights option, and then it's going to make everything all bright. And then what we need to do is actually enable shadows, because we want shadows applied as well. And automatically you will see that that'll enable this shadow option up here. And for right now, that we don't need a tritone kind of color for our shadow. We just either need it light with no shadow, 100% white, which will be no shadow, or dark where it's 100% shadow. Since we're dealing with a flat scene here, we just need this kind of like tinted two-tone kind of treatment. So everything without shadow will be white, everything with shadow will be dark. And this is kind of like the threshold. But since we're dealing with a flat surface, you really can't tell the difference. So you can see that we have a shadow cast, and I'm just going to move this down here. And I can go to my light, and by adjusting the angle of this infinite light will affect our shadow here. So if I have it at a very sharp angle, that will actually lose our shadow altogether, and that'll bring it back. Or if we have our light source kind of just going angled straight down, you can see we get a shorter shadow. And I actually like that. I like just a short shadow just underneath it. And you can see that the color of the shadow matches the darker color of our diffuse. And again, this is kind of like the threshold of where these colors are applied on your geometry. And again, we're dealing with a flat surface, so it really doesn't matter. All you need to know is that whatever's this darker color will be the color of the shadow. So if I want, say, a crazy orange color of my shadow, I'll just change that diffuse color, and there we go. And if I want the lighter part of our shadow, or the lighter part of our scene that's not having any shadow cast on it, to be this crazy green, I can do that as well. So basically, this is just the diffuse, the color of your object, and the darker color, or the color to the left here, will be your shadow. So I will undo that. That's a little too nuts. I just want this just nice kind of gray. Maybe we could make this a little bit cream colored shadow here. Just something subtle. That looks pretty good. Let's make it a little darker. There we go. So diffuse controls the color of your shadow, enabling shadow, enable shadow, and you can play with all these other values here as well. So this value, if you go to mode value, the thing that's controlling the color of the shadow is actually this color right here. And that is just the grayscale value. So using a color doesn't really work. So it's just a grayscale value of your shadow. So I just like to stick with normal for this, because then you can actually choose the color. So that is basically it. So again, we have a light set to hard shadows, and I like to use infinite lights because it's a nice kind of 2D shadow. You can see if I choose like a spotlight or something like that, we get this circle, which doesn't work very well. So infinite light, hard shadow, and we apply a cell shader material onto the surface that we want to have a shadow cast onto it. And we make sure that we have shadow enabled, lights enabled, and mode set to normal. And you can set your colors here. So hopefully that clears everything up as far as being able to apply shadows or cast shadows onto 100% luminant objects. And there you go. If you have any questions, let me know. And as always, thank you for watching. See you next time.